Hello, Tom.
Hi.
Here we are in the splendid building of the Yehudi Menuhin School. I've come to meet Tom to talk about our concert coming up in January. And we've got three fantastic composers to look forward to.
Yes.
20th century, Prokofiev. Romantics, Schumann and Mendelssohn. Thomas has his cello here today, and this is because we're going to play the Schumann Cello Concerto. Now, there's a couple of interesting things about both Mendelssohn and Schumann.
Yes.
We were talking about earlier.
Yes. In fact, when I was working on the Mendelssohn recently, it struck me suddenly that the opening of both the Schumann Cello Concerto, the cello part, and the opening of the Mendelssohn is basically identical, and it's quite surprising. And in a way, it's not the only thing that's identical, because they both have this incredible mysterious quality, if you like, in the way that both pieces begin and take you on this long journey. But if I just play you the very opening of the cello concerto, the first four notes, maybe even just the... Those same intervals are used by Mendelssohn in the symphony. Which is really eerie, literally the same notes. So,
Yes.
I'm assuming that's, of course, a complete coincidence.
But the interesting part here is that we've got two composers straddling the interval, actually, who are looking very much forward, very much forward into the Romantic era.
Yes.
But then we've got one of the most classiest of the Russian 20th century composers.
Yes.
Who is looking back,
Yes.
right back to the early classical.
Absolutely.
Hence the reason the symphony is called the classical.
Yes.
But also because he just was captivated by that style, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, it's tricky stuff to play this, isn't it?
It's very virtuosic, it's very demanding, and I'm really looking forward to doing it with the orchestra, because I'm sure they'll do it brilliantly. But yeah, it's really Prokofiev putting on a classical hat, if you like. And he does this amazing thing because he really takes the style of another period, but it's undeniably him.
Yes. Yes.
It's really his own voice, but it's if you look at the material, it's very strange, because he sometimes, the opening is D major, and then a few bars later you have right next to it C major, and that of course would never happen in the classical period. But the type of writing you would have found, and it's really, that's the extraordinary thing about it. It's like he's taking building blocks from a different period, but he's adapting them for his use, and that gives it this kind of unique flavour. I remember many, many years ago, when I played this piece actually as part of the Vienna Chamber Orchestra, Conductor at the time said that the opening has to sound like the explosion of the cork from a champagne bottle. And it really has this fizz right from the first note. The violins fire up into very high stratospheric areas with a lot of virtuosity, a lot of fun, a lot of dynamicism. And yeah, it sort of really just launches the whole piece in a way. It's a bit of a roller coaster. It's incredibly full of energy and daring writing, and very colourful at the same time.
Yes. For you, this concert is a big one, because in the middle you're going to be playing the cello.
Yes.
And the Schumann is a piece which is very introspective. It doesn't fizz like some of the other concertos.
Yes.
And it was written in a period of his life, a great sombre period of his life. And in fact was never actually performed in his life, was it? Because he was performed after. Yeah. So Schumann, always very introspective anyway, always very... But in this piece there are some absolutely glorious bits, especially for the cello.
Incredibly. I mean, this piece really also demonstrates his two personalities, if you like. The opening, which I just played you before, this very introspective side of his writing. But then a few minutes later we flip the coin and his other personality comes through, which is this very joyful extrovert personality. And it's almost like the first movement is really taking us on a journey between these two personalities, the very intimate, very soulful, quite sad and nostalgic, one could say, intimate writing for the cello and the dialogue with the orchestra. And then the second cello of the entry, suddenly turns a corner. The orchestra finish this big tutti, the cello enters. And suddenly there's a completely different mood. The sun comes up, if you like. And then he has this amazing way, I think, perhaps more than any other composer, of just turning corners.
Yes.
Having been very dark, very dramatic, very desperate. And suddenly, within 2 bars, you're in a world which is entirely different. And then he takes you on that journey, and it's very playful, very heart on sleeve, very light, actually, very graceful. Yes. And then the end of the second page for the cello writing has this wonderful big flourish, many scales, very difficult, and we end very heroically, but then the orchestra throws us back to a unknown, restless bit, if you like. Yes. So it's this constant dialogue, this change of emotion with Schumann, that he takes you on this incredible journey, which I think is a real roller coaster.
Yes,
like. So not a million miles away, although completely different from the roller coaster of, let's say, the Prokofiev. There's one beautiful moment which I would love to just play you the opening bars of, and this has a particular meaning, actually. If I just play you the very opening of the slow movement. These 2 falling fifths apparently are meant to symbolize the Clara motif. So that's a private message from Schumann, if you like, to his wife, Clara. She apparently at the time knew what it was, nobody else did. I mean, the piece was actually never heard in his lifetime, but later on nobody else would have known until that came up from the letters. But the falling fifth was the Clara motif, and that was something that he specially wrote for her. And this motif is also then thrown around in the last movement in a very different way. Of course, it's very tender, very introverted in the slow movement, with a beautiful duet, speaking of chamber music, with the solo cello line. There's a wonderful cello accompaniment, which is very much a duet, actually, performed by the solo cellist of the orchestra. And then the third movement happens, and within the third movement you suddenly get these falling fifths, but very light-hearted, very open, very playful. Yes. So again, that Clara motif, but then in a completely different light, a very happy and open one.
Yes, yes. After the interval, we head to another great German composer who was a child prodigy, as I think Schumann probably was as well. They're just another thing there to come out. But surely Mendelssohn he was famous all over Europe. I mean, he was probably one of the first international composers, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah.
And here we are, suddenly in the Highlands of Scotland.
Yes.
And obviously, he nicknamed it the Scottish.
Yes.
And though he wrote it quite early on in his life, it wasn't actually published for a bit, and he revised it a few times.
Yeah, it seems to have had an interesting life, this symphony. I mean, there's a nice anecdote that when he went to an old chapel in Scotland, he was writing a letter on the atmosphere, the old ivy, and it was a bit of a ruin, I believe, this particular chapel. But he sort of said that gave him the inspiration for the opening, the light sort of peeping through the roof, and a really kind of mysterious world, if you like. And apparently that's the inspiration for the opening of the symphony. Again, not dissimilar from the Schumann, but a different journey that he takes us on. And with this material, he really takes us on a very long journey that also, by the end of the last movement, ends in great sunshine.
I mean, it's going to be an amazing concert. I'm so looking forward to it because it's it's 2 halves.
Yes.
Very, very different music.
Very much.
Beautiful classical music, written by a very, very talented 20th century composer, and 2 romantics who are striving to move that romantic era forward.
No, absolutely.
It's going to be great.
It's a big program, and I'm hugely looking forward to it. I mean, I think they really complement each other very well, these pieces.
Yes.
And I mean, all 3 of them are masterpieces in their own right. So no, I'm looking forward to it very much.
Tremendously.
Indeed.